So last year I made a video where I predicted what was going to happen in the F1 2021 season. Now that the F1 2020 season's over, why not take a look at those predictions and see what happened? So this video is going to be more of a raw one where it's me just going off the cuff, remembering what happened last season, and I'm going to be going through my predictions, seeing where I placed people, and then I'll sort of talk about how I feel they've done this season with a few brief words, and then obviously you guys can give your opinions in the description? The comment section down below. So let's get into my predictions and see how many I got right. Okay, so I've written down my predictions. We're going to start with the constructors just for simplicity's sake. So as I said here in my video, I thought Mercedes was going to win their 8th in a row. So as I said, first place is going to be Mercedes. And then Red Bull and McLaren were going to follow Mercedes in the top 3. And then for the next 3, the 4th, 5th and 6th place, I had Ferrari, Aston Martin and Alpine. Next we've got Alpine or Alpine, I think it's Alpine actually. And then 7, 8, 9, I had AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo and Williams. And then I had Haas at dead last for obvious reasons. So for the constructor that's going to finish in last place, in my opinion, it's definitely got to be Haas. So let's take a quick look at what the actual results were. So as you can see, I was right with Mercedes. They did end up winning their 8th constructors in a row, which is insane, by the way, guys. Just think about that. They have completely dominated the hybrid era of Formula 1. Since the hybrid era started, they have not lost a constructors. That is an insane statistic to think about. And I was right with Red Bull. However, this is where things start to get a little shaky. Ferrari actually ended up getting top 3, so they ended up beating McLaren by roughly 50 points almost, which is kind of insane considering the start and mid-season for McLaren. Lando and McLaren were doing absolutely amazingly, and then I think they started to focus on the 2022 car, and then the car sort of fell off a little bit, and they lost quite a lot of points towards the end of the season. I do believe there was 3 races in particular where they only scored like 4 points in those 3 races, which was quite ridiculous considering the start of this season, and that allowed Ferrari to catch back up and actually take 3rd place from McLaren. And then we've got Alpine, AlphaTauri and Aston Martin. Aston Martin did not do as well as I thought they were going to. If we look back here, you can see I thought Aston Martin was going to finish in 5th. They finished in 7th, and I thought that Alpine was going to finish in 6th, and they ended up finishing in 5th. So pretty good showcase from Alpine. AlphaTauri, I think they did relatively how everyone expected. Obviously, I've got AlphaTauri here at 7th, but I do think they pretty much did exactly how we expected them to. So pretty average season for AlphaTauri. Aston Martin, poor season. They did very well as Racing Point, and I was expecting them to sort of carry that momentum through to Aston Martin, but their first season has been quite shaky, so it's going to take quite a lot of development to sort of get back on track to where Racing Point was. And then Williams had a fantastic season, 23 points. You have to remember, this is a team that from 2018, I believe, maybe 2019, to 2020, you know what I mean, those couple of seasons, they didn't even score 3 points. Not in a season, I'm talking combined. So for them to score 23 points in a season is actually pretty good for them. And you've got Alfa Romeo with 13 points, and Haas didn't score any points. I don't believe that Haas finished anywhere outside of the top 15 in a race, so pretty poor season from them. So how many did I actually get right? So I got Mercedes, I got Red Bull right, and I got Haas right pretty much, and then everyone else I was either 1 place off or a couple of places off. So let's see, yeah, so in total I got about 3 out of 10 for the constructors. Now we get into the more complicated part of this video, which is the driver predictions. Okay, so we've got the drivers predictions now, and this is where things are a little bit more complicated. Obviously there's more drivers, there's 2 drivers per team. However, there is one spanner in the works that I didn't actually expect to happen this season. There wasn't actually 20 drivers who finished the championship. Well, actually 21. And that's because Robert Kubica actually ended up doing a race to replace Kimi Raikkonen, who had COVID during the season. So because of that, there is a little bit of spanner in the works, so we'll see if my predictions actually still hold true based on Robert Kubica. So let's take a quick look at this. So I've got Lewis Hamilton and then Max Verstappen. So I thought that Lewis would win his 8th this year, and as you guys obviously know, I was pretty much one lap away from predicting that.
Claire and Vettel to
and it's ending.
it.
And it's ending. Wow.
So there's confusion, but the safety car is coming in.
Obviously, we all know what happened, but we'll get into that in a minute. And then I had Max Verstappen in P2 with Valtteri Bottas behind him in P3. I had Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, and Charles Leclerc in P4s, 5 and 6. 7, 8, 9, and 10. I had Norris, Vettel, Sainz, and Stroll in that order. And then I had Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Antonio Giovinazzi, Kimi Räikkönen, George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda, Nicholas Latifi, Mick Schumacher, and Nikita Mazepin in that order from 1st to 20th. So let's see how accurate I actually was. So as you can see, Max Verstappen ended up winning and is now officially a World Drivers' Champion.
Championship can only be won by one, and it's going Dutch in 2021. Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world.
Finally winning, I believe, his first single-seated championship. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below, but I do believe that was his first because he didn't win in F3 from my knowledge, and then he skipped from F3 straight to F1, so he didn't have the chance to win GP2 or what is now known as Formula 2. So yeah, Max Verstappen ended up winning, and obviously we all know what happened at Abu Dhabi, you know, the controversial thing that happened with the final lap and obviously his safety car and stuff like that. That doesn't take away from the fact that Max has been incredible this season, absolutely incredible. Obviously on the day Lewis deserved the championship, I definitely think Lewis was the better driver at Abu Dhabi, therefore he should have won the championship. However, it is what it is. A championship's won over a season, right? So Max Verstappen wins, Lewis Hamilton in 2nd place. So sadly, I got those two the wrong way around. Moving on, Valtteri Bottas in P3. I actually managed to get him correct. I definitely thought he was going to have a strong season. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I think that his result here doesn't actually paint a picture or an accurate picture of his season. I actually think he was actually pretty mediocre or even poor throughout most of this season, just not being there when he needs to be there. He's had his moments, of course. Valtteri Bottas, he always has his moments, and I do think he is a solid Grand Prix driver. It's just he wasn't really good this season. He wasn't as strong this season as I thought he would be going into it. And then we've got Sergio Perez in P4. I predicted him to finish in P5. Obviously with Daniel Ricciardo, I predicted him in P4. He's had a pretty shocking season, which I'll get into that when we get to him. Moving on to Carlos Sainz now. Let's see. He was in 5th place. Now this one was actually quite shocking because I thought that Carlos Sainz would do quite well this season, but not this well. He actually beat his teammate in his first season here at Ferrari, which is pretty good, especially considering who his teammate is. It really just shows how underrated or undervalued people think Carlos Sainz is, especially myself. I thought that he was roughly, where did I put him in my predictions? I put him in P9, and he finished basically best of the rest at this point. I predicted Lando Norris to finish in P7. He finished in P6. Again, I think that was just due to the start and middle of the season. Once the McLaren car started to basically fall off, you could really see that, you know, Lando and in some cases Daniel as well was really struggling with that car, and because of that he ended up losing places in the championship. Yeah, Lando Norris finishing in P6, still a solid season from him, but he could have definitely done better if the car had been more consistently good throughout the season. And then we've got Charles Leclerc in P7, as I said, but yeah, P7 still quite a solid result for Ferrari, though considering they did finish P3 in the championship, you would expect him to be in the top 6, which is where I actually predicted him to be. Next off, P8, we've got Daniel Ricciardo. Now, this point in season from him, he had a very good season in 2020 in the Renault, and because of that, combined with the McLaren and the Mercedes partnership that had just been announced, I thought that Daniel Ricciardo was going to have a very solid season, which is why I placed him as high as 4th place. However, that just didn't come to pass. He did win a race this season, However, throughout the season, he just wasn't consistent enough. He couldn't get used to the car, and he struggled to get used to the car for quite a while. And because of that, that sort of hindered any chances of him getting a decent position in the championship. Next, I have Pierre Gasly. Now, I predicted Pierre Gasly to be in P12, which now that I'm looking at it in hindsight is definitely a bad move, because I don't know, I didn't give Pierre Gasly the credit he deserves, or enough credit, I should say, because I did give him credit, just not enough, clearly, because he's had a really solid season. During the races, it's been a bit iffy, but qualifying, he's been really consistent with that, always finishing in the top 6 most chances or not. I do believe he falls back sometimes, but yeah, it's been a pretty good season from Pierre Gasly, I would say, in the AlphaTauri. Fernando Alonso in P10. I predicted him to finish in P11 because I thought he was going to be quite poor during the season, just because he hadn't been in an F1 car in a while, and obviously he's pretty old as an F1 driver, but he proved me wrong. Even though he finished only in P10, I felt as if he was really strong this season. Once he actually got to grips with that Alpine car, he was very, very strong in that car. So I have to give credit where credit is due. Even though he only finished a place above where I predicted him to be, I still think he had a very, very solid season this season. And Esteban Ocon, I predicted him to finish in P13. He finished in P11. Sebastian Vettel, I predicted him to finish in P8. He finished in P12, and I don't think that's to do with Sebastian Vettel, more to do with Aston Martin. As you can see, Lawrence Stroll is right behind him, so I think it was more of the car than the drivers. Next off in P14, I've got Yuki Tsunoda. Now, I predicted him to finish in P17. So he's done a lot better than I thought he would do. He has still kind of been slapped around by Pierre Gasly, but to give Yuki credit, this was his first season. I wasn't going to expect much from him, which is why I actually put him down in P17, just because he was a rookie coming in and I didn't expect him to shine so much in his first season. It's very rare to see a driver shine brightly in their first season. Next up, we've got George Russell in P15. Fantastic season. Not really much else to say there. Obviously, the highlight moment for him in terms of his points was that podium finish that he got at Spa, which didn't necessarily sit well with a lot of people, just because, you know, it was a safety car throughout pretty much the entire couple laps that they did, and then they ended the race. But you have to remember, George Russell on merit put his Williams in P2.
A stonking lap. Oh, you've out-qualified Mr. Hamilton. George Russell. P2.
He deserved to get at least, you know, a good amount of points there. So obviously the points are won in the race, and the race didn't happen, but you know, you could argue because the race didn't happen, the race was won and lost in qualifying. Therefore, George Russell did what he needed to do and secured some big points for himself this season. Kimi Raikkonen in P16, I predicted him to finish in P15. So again, you know, similarly to a lot of the other drivers, I was one place off where Kimi Raikkonen would finish. And then Nicholas Latifi, who's obviously the center of attention based on the controversy that happened at Abu Dhabi, which I'm gonna quickly stop right here just to say, you know, the people who attacked him because of what happened, shame on you guys. Like, honestly, it's not his fault that what happened. You know, drivers, they have incidences, they crash all the time. You can't attack him because of what happened after he crashed. He had no involvement in that, and if you did attack him, my personal opinion, you're not an F1 fan, because why would you do something like that? But moving on from my little rant there, he finished in P17. Again, solid season from him. You have to remember where Williams were versus what they've done this season, which is incredible. Past 3 seasons before this season, I don't think they scored more than 5 points combined. So for both drivers to score more than 5 points individually this season is a pretty good standing from Williams. And then Antonio Giovinazzi in P18, I predicted him to finish in P14. So yeah, not amazing from Giovinazzi, but obviously now he's no longer in Formula 1. And then we've got Mick Schumacher in P19, which I did get right, obviously, because Haas obviously wasn't going to be a good car, so I expected them to be towards the back. But here's the part that I find pretty funny, right? So from my knowledge, Kubica only did 1 race, and that was to replace Kimi Raikkonen when he's had COVID. I don't remember which race it was, but I'll probably have it somewhere on the screen. The fact that he only did one race this season and still technically beat Nikita Mazepin is pretty funny. It is, you can't lie, it is pretty funny. It just shows that, you know, a combination of a bad car with, in my personal opinion, a bad driver, a bad Grand Prix driver, it doesn't mix well. So yeah, obviously Mick Schumacher didn't score any points either, but Mick was able to get into Q2 a couple times at least, whereas Mazepin struggled throughout the season. Maybe, you know, you could argue it's his rookie season. Maybe as time goes on throughout his career, we might see some stuff happen with Mazepin. But as for now, I'm going to say in my personal opinion that he is a bad Grand Prix driver. And now finally, I'm going to take a look at some of my bold predictions. I made 5 bold predictions in my video last year of just things that I wanted to throw out there. I didn't really have too much confidence that they would happen, but I just wanted to throw them out there just in case they happened. And as it turns out, we actually got 3 out of the 5 bold predictions correctly. And I actually didn't mention just now that in the drivers' predictions, I ended up getting 3 right, which was obviously Valtteri Bottas, Mick Schumacher, and technically Nikita Mazepin. I did think Nikita Mazepin would finish last, and technically he did finish last. So I'll take that as a point scored, or maybe I'll take it as half a point. So at this moment of time, I have 5.5 points out of lots. So we're not doing too well, but the bold predictions side of things, I did pretty well. 3 out of 5 I did get correct. So let's check out what those 3 are. So the first bold prediction I made was a prediction that I honestly had no confidence in. I didn't think it was going to happen. I just threw it out there just in case it happened so that I could say it did happen. And that was that Valtteri Bottas would beat Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship. Obviously didn't happen, so we're just going to move straight on from that. The second prediction I made in my bold predictions did actually come true, and that was Ferrari claiming a top 3 spot. Now in hindsight, you look at Ferrari and what they've done this season and you're like, oh, obviously they're going to finish in the top 3. I have to remember where Ferrari was at the time that I made this video going into the 2021 season. They had just come off of one of their worst seasons ever. So for me to claim that they were going to get a top 3 spot was actually pretty bold, and a lot of people didn't even think they were going to finish in the top 5. So I'm glad that I got that one correct. It's good to see Ferrari back in the top 3, and hopefully we can see them fighting for more top 3 battles in 2020. And this next prediction I had, in fact, it's not wrong to say I had no confidence, but it's also not right to say I had no confidence. I definitely had a little bit of confidence in this one, and that was that George Russell would score more than 5 points throughout the season. Obviously that did come true. He ended up with 16 points, which is insane to me considering the Williams car, and I'm glad that I got that one right as well. And for my fourth one, pretty similar to the first prediction, I literally only said it to just throw it out there under the case that it did actually happen, but I had no confidence in it, which was that Yuki, in his rookie season, would beat Gasly in the Drivers' Championship. Obviously didn't happen, so once again, we'll keep it short and sweet and move on to the final bold prediction that I made, and the final one that I actually got right. And the final one that I actually got right was that either Daniel Ricciardo or Charles Leclerc would win a race in the 2021 season. And obviously I ended up getting that right with Daniel Ricciardo winning at Monza. It was a great race from the McLaren team, and obviously they were the only team in the entire season to have a 1-2 finish. So they did start off very, very strongly, and they did have some showings from Daniel Ricciardo where he was really on the money, and Monza was one of those races, and I think Lando was quicker on track, but obviously you don't really want to be overtaking, especially when Daniel put in the work to even get into first place in the first place, and the fact that obviously it could cause issues that might get other people to catch them back up. So obviously Lando hung behind, he took the second place, and Daniel Ricciardo ended up winning, and that was a pretty good moment, and the podium celebration was a pretty good moment as well. Charles Leclerc didn't win, and he had moments where he really struggled this season, but I'm glad that I got this prediction right with Daniel Ricciardo. So let me know what you guys think about my predictions. What did you guys predict, or what are you predicting for the 2022 season? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, smash that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys soon in my next video.